ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien, non, je ne regrette rien, c'est payé. J'ai allumé le feu, mes chagrins, mes plaisirs. Je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo, balayer pour toujours. Je repars à zéro. Non. Regrette rien, ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien, non, je ne regrette rien, car ma vie, car mes jours, ça commence avec toi.
shine. We will
de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien, ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien, non, je ne regrette rien. C'est payé, balayé, oublié. Je me fous du passé. Avec mes souvenirs, j'ai allumé le feu. Mes chagrins, mes plaisirs, je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo, balayé pour toujours, je repars à zéro. Non, rien de rien, non, je ne regrette rien, ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal. Ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Car ma vie, car mes joies, aujourd'hui, ça commence avec toi.
That makes all the crap we put up with on this trip worthwhile.
Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. C'est payé. J'ai allumé le feu, mes chagrins, mes plaisirs. Je n'ai plus besoin de balayer les amours avec leur trémolo, balayer pour toujours. Je repars à zéro. Non. Rien, ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien, car ma vie, car mes jours, ça commence avec toi.
All right, voice check, guys. Let me know if any of you guys can hear me out there. I'm doing things solo. Ken won't be here for about a half hour, and Steve can't be here tonight. So let me get a voice check from all the Glue Trooper Commandos. Get my cheater glasses on. Thought you guys might enjoy a little trip down nostalgia road. I want to thank Tom Daniel for sending me all these pictures. He TD sent me that stuff. He also sent me a box we're going to get into later. And I think Elon was real dream. I don't see him as Jane Bond villain. I see Elon as Tony Stark. But to each their own. Okay, looks like you guys can hear me. Excellent. Well, we got 2 minutes to go. What do you say we go ahead and kick this bad boy off and get the ball rolling here? Let me just change back to the other glasses. And gentlemen, tonight's episode will be dedicated in memory of the late, great Colonel Joseph Kittinger. Passed away here in Florida at the age of 94. World altitude record, 102,000 foot parachute jump for research purposes, as well as being a chase pilot, fighter pilot, Vietnam POW. Did 2 tours of Vietnam, one in A-26, or later B-26 Invaders. Then an F-4 Phantom, shot down a MiG, and he going for a second one is how he got shot down. And spent, I think, 10 months as a POW at the Hanoi Hilton, which he always described as the worst Hilton on Earth. Then he later was the first man to solo a balloon, a mixed gas balloon, not a hot air balloon, as a media often misreports, across the Atlantic, successfully soloed. Got it on a second try, taken off out of Caribou, Maine, landed on the, I read his book, Come Up and Get Me. He landed on the Italian-French border, and both of them claimed to be where he landed, and actually caused a bit of kerfuffle. Had a chance to meet him, have him sign my copy of the book. One of the few heroes of my life that when I met him, I wasn't disappointed. Great guy, and he will be missed. Well, here we are, and in case you're wondering before you ask, I'm only wearing the fedora, my nicest hat, because I get this shiny spot on the side of my head, and so I just figured it would be easier on you guys than staring at a big glowing orb staring back at you. So how's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody is well, and got a lot going on. Somebody asked to see the Apollo 11 helicopter, so this is actually a die cast, and I did not build this, but I've had it for years. Unfortunately, the plastic base has begun to bow, but other than that, it's as nice a day I got it. This, I forget who made this, might have been Armor, but anyway, the helicopter actually comes with a set of retractable wheels, which I have on, and the blades flexed up for flight. Or you can have the droopy blades on it and the wheels down. If you want to pose the helicopter by itself, the door does slide open. Does not come with any frogmen, but it's got the little Apollo 11 logo. That's what I had under the glass over there. Somebody wanted to see it, so I got over there. Managed to take it down without breaking anything, which for me is a win. I've had this for years, 15 or more years. I think I already mentioned Steve won't be with us tonight, but I owe him a big thanks because he sent me a box, which I've already opened it. We're going to go through it here shortly. And it included this Christmas card, which I used as the logo for tonight's broadcast. Season's greetings. Because Godzilla's like bacon. He makes everything better. I think Godzilla's made of nuclear bacon. So, all right. I'm going to go back to my other glasses so I can read the comments. Since I don't have Ken and Steve to wingman me, I'm going to be trying to chat and talk at the same time. I hope everybody's doing well. I have my cough medicine with me, which is almost gone, but I also have my chaser, which is just caffeine-free green tea. So, let's start off with a couple of something I just stumbled onto just a few minutes before the show, which I thought was hilarious. I've told you guys I still want to do some more kit model history videos, but it's been hard to find any information because I've done all the big companies, and finding information on the smaller companies is there's just not that much out there. Smaller companies, especially if they're not around that long. But I did find some information on a Japanese company called Crown. Now, I suspected Crown might have been a remarketer, but it looks like they did cut their own molds, from what I can tell. From between scalemates and what little I can find online, although their stuff was distributed in the U.S. by AHM and a few other companies. I think Revell picked up a few other molds and stuff, but I think they actually were an original kit maker going back to the 60s. But you're going to love this, okay? Let me get to those decals. Or not decals. Okay. So this is the first box art for the Crown M41 Walker Bulldog. Now, I've only built a handful of Crown kits. Usually were road builds. I never quite get any complaints with them. They seem like perfectly viable kits. They look good when they're built. The parts fit okay. Not perfect, but, you know, especially for kits that are made in the 60s, 70s, they're fine. I have nothing bad to say about them. I don't know how much they cost because they were gifts from Glue Troopers. But overall, I found them, yeah, they're fine. And you can tell this is a real M41 Walker Bulldog, which was America's, really our last throw at a genuine light tank. Fast, good gun, but anything could knock it out. Thin armor. I mean, something's got to give for the speed, right? So anyway, I thought, okay, that looked cool. And I was just doing some research, and I just grabbed another image of a later version of Walker Bulldog to see how their box art fared. Now, all you armor guys, take note, and I'm going to give you a little time. What's wrong with this picture? I'll wait, and I imagine some of you are already melting down the keyboards. Dun, 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 dun. Of course, we're on a loop and a lag, so I got to wait a little while for the answers to come up. Oh, you're right. The turret definitely looks different. You're spot on that one. Is Fran out here yet? Because he'd spot that right away. Come on, I know we got some tread heads with us. When I saw it, I did about 3 double takes, and Craig's picking up on it. You know, they don't have the scale listed. I think it might be a 1 to 140. Nope, it's not the background. There you go, Craig got it. It's an M. It is. They put the box art of an M60 A1 on the M41 Walker Bulldog. And the quickest way to tell is not only the bore evacuator and the commander in the middle of the barrel, the commander's cupola, but if you look real quick, the M41 only has 5 road wheels, and that has 6. But now, in their defense, they do have a similar profile, but the M60 is a much bigger tank. It's a main battle tank. What in World War II would have been a heavy tank, a direct descendant of the Pershing, as you can tell by the chassis, the suspension system. But yeah, they actually put an M60 on the box art for what was supposed to be a Walker Bulldog, which is a substantially smaller tank. Admittedly, similar profile. Not sure how that mistake got made or if it even got discovered. But yeah, that does not enhance the reputation of your company when you literally put the wrong product on the cover. And it's not the only time it's happened. And so I just discovered that about 10 minutes before we went on air. So I'm scrambling to get these pictures uploaded and everything. But that is what it's supposed to look like. And I admit, in fairness, they're not unsimilar profiles. I get it. You're a guy working in an office in Japan, probably never seen one of these before in your life. You're going through photos. Oh, that looks good. You hand it to the artist. He doesn't know anything about tanks. He just knows how to not every artist is Mike Machat, who is, understands the medium. A lot of them are just contractors who paint what they get. So, if I got that box art, I think I'd frame it. I just leave it up there and see people come and just see who notices, So you're an armor guy. Or send that to the, I should email that to the chieftain. I imagine he gets about 10,000 emails a day. But anyway, I thought you guys would get a tickle out of that. And I'm sure you have all caught stuff that was wrong on box art before. So I don't want to pick on them too hard, but it's what I do. So anyway, Hey, Frank, glad you could make it. Oh, Fran, you are here. So, yeah, M48, yeah. I knew Fran would spot it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be picking on him, but it's just funny slapping an M60 on the M41 Walker Bulldog. That is not getting old anytime soon. I try not to be a jerk, but sometimes, they just pull it out of me. So, anyway, but I'm sure it's the same kid, so I'm sure you're fine getting what you get. But I imagine there are probably one or two kids that bought it and did the man, hey, this ain't what's on the cover. But that's how a lot of us learned about our history. It's from the model box art. So if you get the model box art wrong, and some poor kid thinks an M60 is an M41, then you're just cheating the children. Think of the children. Oh God, how many people remember that back? Was it the 80s? That was the big thing. Every piece of legislation or whatever someone wanted to get passed. Think of the children. And I was a kid at the time going, trust me, Mom, I'm fine. I want model tanks and model planes, I don't want to build model flowers. Because I'm a guy. Just a guy. Okay. A couple of folks. The Indiana Jones hat is because if you don't, you guys get the solar reflection off the head of my balding noggin. And apparently I burned out a few retinas with it. So it's just, I'm not trying to be cool. I don't need a hat to be cool. Max of Max's models. I'm Glue Trooper #1. Hey, cool comes with the job. No, this is strictly so you guys don't burn out a retinal looking at my shiny forehead. I actually asked my wife if she had some makeup to put on it, but we didn't, have time to get all that done. So maybe next time I'll put some, what do they got, pancake or something on there. I need to get better lighting in here. But then again, I do proudly boast the lowest production values on the internet. So, anyway, you know what? I can close this because when Ken calls, I can answer it just by flipping it open. My wife got me this. This is a Bluetooth these puppies aren't cheap either. And it's got the working more dial and everything. And I just, so once in a blue moon, I'll take this with me. A phone will ring, I'll whip it out. And the looks of the people, I'm like, they're judging me, and that's okay. I'm judging you too. If you don't think it's cool, then you're not cool. Okay, which is a great segue into something else I thought we would chat about before I run out of stuff to talk about. The bullwhip is scary. The Adam Savage look. I've been called worse. So, speaking of Star Trek, I just stumbled onto something. Now, there isn't a modeling subject I don't like, but there are some that I'm better versed in. And this one's kind of in my wheelhouse. You guys have seen some of the videos. Some of you have seen the videos I've made and some of the things I've pontificated about the old Star Trek models and everything. And forever and a day, and first off, I did not put the link in there because I forgot. But there's a YouTube channel called Weird Nashville. And having been in Nashville recently, that's pretty appropriately named. But anyway, he's a huge Trekophile. And he does a lot of deep research. Now, most of the pictures you're about to see, I just screen grabbed off of his YouTube thing. You can do that when you don't monetize. What are they going to do? Not pay me? Hey, my not paycheck is late. So anyway, for the longest time, the big 11-foot model was, everybody knew that all the markings were on the right side of the ship. They used reverse decals and flipped the film around when they wanted to film it from the other side. Because the left side, the port side of the model, had all the wires and cables hanging out of it. And one little mystery that sort of circulated is, why does the left engine nacelle have markings on it when the left hull doesn't? Well, and some of you guys may have already seen this video, but after 50 years, a singular photograph surfaced. So, you know what? Let me just go to the pictures. Okay. First, Matt Jeffries designed the ship, but a guy named John Dayton made the 3-foot model. Now, this is the original 3-foot model. It is a block of wood. It is not lighted in any way. This was supposed to be the, this is what it's going to look like model for them to make the big model, the big 11-foot model. In fact, it was. But they went ahead and started making the initial pilot with Jeffrey Hunter, and they went ahead and used the 3-foot model for a bunch of the shots. But they did use this as the pattern for the 11-foot model. And here it is, the end of December, 64, just before New Year's of 65. By the way, they wrapped shooting, I think only like 25 days later on, I think it was January 22nd or 25th of, about a month later, they'd finished shooting the pilot. Now, Dayton is on the left. The other two guys, I think, were sent over to pick it up. But anyway, he made the big 11-foot model based on the 3-foot model. All right? For some reason, I mean, nobody was giving it a conscious thought. All the photographs are the right side. So everybody just assumed because that was the marked side. Stands to reason. The only shot that this model was used for in the pilot with Jeffrey Hunter was that initial shot where it zooms in on the bridge. And of course, they special effects and the people inside on set. Now, here's where it gets good. You'll notice there are no lights on this model. Nothing is illuminated. Roddenberry had him make the 3-foot model. He said there won't be any lights on it. So he made it that way. And the 11-foot model was made the exact same way. Then when the first pilot wasn't accepted and they were going to do a second pilot, Roddenberry then comes back to him and says, hey, can you light it? And he's like, you know, Gene, you said we weren't going to have to do that, you know, but okay, fine. So, here's the same side of it. You'll notice something though, and this gets past a lot of people. A lot of people who build the Enterprise know that they put the vents in the, what I guess you would call the engine exhaust, and there were the slats in the shuttle bay, because it was a shuttle bay. But the original build, the shuttle bay door was smooth, and so were the engine, I guess you call them engine exhausts. They later cut the serrations in the shuttle bay door and added the vents. They also, if you'll notice, right there on the saucer section, you see a cable. For the first pilot with Jeffrey Hunter, they suspended it from cables, and it turned out that was really stressing the frame of the model. So they went ahead and built, for the second one, they went ahead and built this stand that we're all familiar with. But you'll notice now it's lighted, okay? Not lighted, lighted. So, when Dayton was told to light it, he had to cut up the side of the ship. And if you look up by the engine nacelle, you see a big plug just hanging out of the side. Now, the pylons were solid wood. They couldn't put any cables in them, so the cables had to go to the outside. You can see where the tape and stuff is torn off on the inside of the other nacelle, where they had to run the cables. You see the power cable hanging out of the other nacelle also, but it just had to be out of camera range. That was all. Now, you may notice all this damage down the side of the nacelle, or excuse me, down the side of the secondary hull. Well, that was obviously where they had to cut the model up to get inside, drill holes. And fortunately, this was large parts of this were hollow and they could get in there. And if you look at even later pictures of it, you always see that the port side, in that lower right, you can see just the simple cables once they streamlined it a lot. But that's still a promo shot. But you're like, okay, so there's no markings on the side because we know the wires had to come out of there. All right. Well, that is an actual, and just discovered, and as far as we know, the only photograph of the port side with full markings. Apparently, the lights, you can see some of the cables, This was apparently an initial attempt to light it and do as little damage as possible. They just drilled a couple of holes. So you notice the engines are not lit up. Only the phaser bank, the bridge, and a couple of windows that they could cut out. So they could just drill a hole in the side, run the stuff up in there, run the cables down the side. And you see the Starfleet markings on the port side of the ship. This is the only known photograph, and it just surfaced, of the port side of the ship with full markings. And of course, when they were going to light the rest of it, they of course had to just gut the side of the thing to get enough access to get all the lights they wanted. So Dayton's children recently put out a book about. He passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. In fact, everybody who dealt with this thing has sadly passed. His kids wrote a book and said that Dad commented that when they actually brought the original out, it was fully detailed on both sides because it was a carbon copy, just enlarged, of the original 3-foot model. So if you want to impress your Trekkie friends at a party, you can tell them that the original 11-foot Enterprise did, in fact, have full markings on both sides, and we finally have photographic evidence. By the way, this gentleman in the picture to the left, who I think is the one who found the photo, is one of the people, I forget his name, but he was helped design the NX-01 for Enterprise. So, well, there's Ken.
You have a phone call.
Come in, Lieutenant Mix.
Hey, Captain.
Not for much longer, for about another 2 weeks.
You're still Captain. That's the important part.
They just popped up. I see you're here. Well, did you catch any of what I was just telling the nice people?
Okay.
That I found a photo of the left side of the Enterprise with markings.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, before it was all hacked up. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So it's what we talked about earlier.
Okay.
But anyway, so you're about to see the pictures here. Of course, we got the lag because you and I are on the phone, so it goes quick. There it is. You can see where they just basically eviscerated the left side to get access to everything. And,
yeah, I saw that from the video that Adam Savage did at the Smithsonian.
Yeah. But even he didn't know that they had fully marked both sides of the model, which was a big thing with the super modelers and stuff. You know what someone could do, if you wanted just to be cool, is make a model of the studio model with the wires and the center stand and all that stuff. That'd be kind of a cool build, something different.
That would be different.
Now, the last thing, of course, is the reverse decals. This guy's name is, I believe it is Craig Thompson. Now, you'll notice that he is standing by the 11-foot model, fully lighted. You can see it plugged into the wall with a bunch of big reverse decals. He's obviously not at the studio. He is at a college. Hey, Steve's here. I didn't think he was going to make it. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Let me answer. Okay. Put Ken, merge with Ken. Let's see if the merge works. We're going for the merge. Hey, Mav.
Ken, Star Search.
There we go. All right. Hey, guys, the gang is here after all. Good, because I'm wearing the wrong glasses.
Coming to you from the scenic New Jersey Turnpike.
Oh, boy.
Band back together again.
You never had it so good.
The quickest and best way out of the state.
So, guys, you got Max of Max's model, Steve of Steve's Model Mania, and Ken of Ken. Ken Mix of the Fort Pierce mixes.
Ken of the broken P-38.
Yeah, Ken of the crippled 338. You're gonna Steve Austin that thing. I got faith.
Yeah. Captain what?
Captain Crash.
Captain Crash. Oh, Captain Crunch. No. That's it. Captain Crunch.
No, we're not going there. There was a guy at the airfield when I was first started flying. His name was Captain Crunch, and I swear he went through an airplane once a week.
You're not talking about me, are you?
What's that?
Sounds like you're talking about me. I am saving the world from injected styrofoam. So anyway,
well, this is back before the styrofoam thing.
If Steve is on if Steve's on the turnpike, he can't see what's going on. But Steve, I'm showing a picture of Craig Thompson with the big 11-foot Enterprise at a college. Apparently,
I was watching it when I called in.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, apparently the dealio was, because I don't think the Smithsonian got this thing till like 80 or 84 or something, so they put it on display. But this guy worked at Desilu, and I don't know what his job was, probably a prop handler. But anyway, when Paramount took over the show, the ship had largely gone into storage because people don't. A lot of times you'll watch an episode of the original Star Trek and you'll see the ship from different angles. You're like, wait a minute, that's a first season shot with the tall bridge and the big saucer, big deflector, because they mix the footage up all the time. But of course, in the 1960s, nobody was really that tight on continuity. Heck, you go watch the original Star Trek on television. There are times you can see through the ship because the chroma key is so poor. But anyway, he talked to this university. He said he talked to Paramount had inherited it, and he said he wanted to take the model to a university, to a college, to put on display at some kind of symposium. They're like, yeah, sure, take it. We're not using it. So this is where this photo was taken. Well, he also brought this big sheet of reverse decals and regular decals. So what they did on Star Trek was the original model was painted for the original. But they said, look, we're going to be going, since we got to rip up the side of the thing, we want to be able to shoot it from both sides, we need reverse numbers. So we're going to get the paint off of it, use decals that we can pull off and put back on. So they made some reverse decals. Now, a lot of people thought this was just a legend for a long time. They that's just something people are making up. It's apocryphal. No, it was true. Well, he took the big sheet of reverse decals, which you see, that's a photo of them on display, along with a bunch of cast photos in the background. I think the show was obviously off the air by this point, which is probably why they let him take the prop. But, when he turned the ship back in and everything, sometime later he realized he had failed to turn in the decals. He called Paramount and said, hey, look, I still have the decals. They could not have cared less. The ship was going to the storage. They told him to keep them. So he still got them to this day. And this same video shows a relatively recent picture of him posing with them at, like a Trekathon or Comic-Con or something. So I'm like, well, there's your, unique little niche in history. Now, what they would do, obviously, is they would put the reverse there. Now, here's an actual blue screen shot of it on the set with the reverse decals on it. And then, of course, they turn the film around and it's going the other way and everything reads right. All right? Pretty straightforward. In some cases, they were so ambivalent towards the end. I think, which one was it? I forget which episode it was. But they actually showed the ship fly by with the numbers on backwards and didn't even bother to reverse it. And you'd only see it for a second. But, it was like, they just, we don't care.
But you know why that is?
It saves money.
Because in space there's no up or down or right or left or correct.
They're still backward. There's the picture. Here you can, if you look at the upper left, these are two screen grabs overlap, but if you look at the upper left, you can tell that the number's actually on backwards. And it's just a 2-second pass in low resolution. Like, nobody's going to notice because they didn't, no one forecast the interweb and nerds that would spend hours of their lives looking for this kind of stuff.
You sure the ship wasn't backing up?
That wouldn't put the letters on it backwards.
No backup lights.
Beep, beep, beep. Beat you to it.
If you look at that blue screen thing down there in the lower right-hand corner, you can actually see a little bit of the pipe that the thing was mounted on.
Yep, and I don't know if it was a clear tube or painted blue. By the way, you can go out. I decided not to show a picture because this ain't that kind of channel, but you can actually
They get that kind of channel.
Go on Weird Nashville and watch the video, and you will see behind the scenes photos he has that the guys have no shirts on, and the reason is all the lighting that it took to do the chroma key made it so bloody hot in the room that no one could stand to be in there. So all these guys are peeling their shirts off to there's Weird Nashville. They were all pulling their shirts off, because they were sweating so bad And people forget. I mean, it's not so bad
Tell me
today,
that,
but people
I thought you were going to tell me that when that shot comes up, it plays in the Navy.
in the Navy. Oh God, I just flew with a Navy first officer. I brought that up. He's like, "Don't even start." But don't go there. Don't go there, Willis. But
Meanwhile, when I used to fly a lot, I mean a lot. I used to fly every day as a passenger. And you could always tell who the Navy pilots were and who the Air Force pilots were. Because the Navy pilots wanted to put the plane through the runway. And the Air Force pilots would kind of like just take all the runway to take them to set down. And you'd go up and get out of the plane, the guy would be standing in the front of the cabin saying, you know, thank you for flying. You go, Navy? You go, oh, yeah.
Oh, well.
Air Force? Yeah,
Yeah, I do that too. Most of the time I was right.
The joke is that I don't think they really say this, but the joke in the Navy supposedly is that the motto of carrier pilots is flare to land, squat to pee. I'm not saying that. Nobody heard me. Can't prove it.
They wanted to plant it on the deck. They wanted to make sure that thing.
They got about 100-foot wide area to plant that thing in. So I am certainly not going to be critical of them. I mean, you can't flare in the Navy. You got to drive it onto the deck, or you're gonna. And to say they're hypercritical of carrier traps is an understatement. Now, what made this stand so important to Star Trek was the guy at the bottom is cranking the handle. He actually shows the guy doing the crank. You see the ship rotating. And that really enhanced, because the pilot episode, they had to move the camera. Now they could move the ship on this crank and everything, and it worked a lot better. That's got the tall bridge. It doesn't have the balls on the engine, so that's a very first season shot right there. It's got the big deflector dish. But anyway...
Boy, what great technology for a show that's supposed to be in the 23rd century.
Well, listen, you got to give them credit. I mean, I'm talking to Ken on a Star Trek communicator. I'm looking at an iPad that's basically a tricorder. The only thing we're missing is warp drive, phasers, and transporters.
I wouldn't be broadcasting that to a broad area.
Hey, Star Trek foresaw a lot of things. You know, I mean, Roddenberry, he went to JPL and talked to him about what technology was going to happen. So that sort of guided some of the stuff he did. I don't buy the whole time thing, but now that there's actually physical evidence that time may be relative, oh my God.
Hey, I'm still waiting for the green women.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the green slime, which, by the way, is a movie that needs to be remade. The Green Slime is a movie that needs to be remade by like the Spielberg type. He could kill it.
Many years ago, I was working for a software company, and I wasn't on the project, unfortunately, because I would have loved to have done it. But they were writing a system for a hospital, the entire hospital. And the part that they were working on for the emergency room, not the emergency, the operating room, they based it off the displays that were in the sick bay in the Enterprise.
Yeah, there you go. See? There you go. It's nerds like us that are making a better world. Hey, we have the Dreamberry was talking about replicators. We call them 3D printers.
I got one.
Wasn't that hospital the one that has the highest death rate in the country? Or?
Well, only if you count everyone who dies there.
Yeah. That would be great, writing a program for that. You could just control everything in the hospital. Just think of the fun you could have.
Oh, God.
Yeah, sure. We'll go there. Yeah, okay.
And think in the old days, today, in the old days, they used to just stick a gun in your face and say, "Give me your wallet." Now, they use a credit card system. Okay, so, anywho, back to models. So, that's how Star Trek influenced our lives. I thought you guys might find that. And I think, people have made everything Star Trek, but I've never seen anyone actually make a model of the studio model, like with the stand and the cameras and the wire. So, there's your diorama that no one's ever made before if you want to model something different. And it's not even technically science fiction because it's a thing that really existed. So there you go. And again, for anybody who's wondering, I'm wearing the hat because of this big shiny spot on my head. That question seems to pop up once in a while.
We thought it was because you were going to be a TARDIS Wrangler.
Yeah. They're supposed to drop the box on Tuesday. And I will try to take some video of all that, and please let that go without any incident.
Well, you got to get it.
Hmm?
You need to get it from more than one angle. You need to get Monica out there, too.
Ah. Well, Steve, since you're on here, folks, as I mentioned...
You need that for insurance reasons.
Yeah. Well, we're getting permitted and everything. Folks, as I mentioned, Steve sent me this wicked cool card and a box that I've already opened. So I'm going to show you what's in here. We'll do a little bit of a sort of a quasi unboxing.
Is that Godzilla with a Santa hat and a Santa suit on?
Yes, it is.
Who
It's
sent you that?
Godzana or
That's
Santilla.
my interweb browsing skills.
So Steve sent me, amongst other things, we have the Bondi 148 scale Mooney, the Bondi 148 scale Beach Bonanza, and an airplane that most people in America are not familiar with, the Bondi Aero Subaru, the FA200, which is like the only general aviation airplane ever to come out of Japan. And I've heard nice things about it, but it's amazing because Japan effectively has no general aviation. It's just primarily a trainer. Steve,
Did you tell me one time that there's a person in the Japanese government that its sole job is to tell people that they can't get a pilot's license?
Ken is not wrong there. This was in Flying Magazine about 10, 15 years ago. The big sport in Japan is ultralights, but you have to stay over property that you own. And they were talking about it because they basically, I'm not joking. One of them was flying around and he had his engine quit, as little Rotax engines are prone to do.
The average Japanese house is like on a 50 by 50 plot.
Yeah. Guys, we've had a recent family situation, and my sister's calling, so I'm going to turn the camera off and the microphone off. I'm going to loop the intro and let you guys. I'll be back with you guys in a minute. Sorry about that. Okay, and. Let me go ahead and. Okay, we're back, guys. I hope you can still hear me. So we're back. No, it was no emergency. It was just something she needs me to do tomorrow. I don't want to get all downer on the channel. We lost a loved one here this morning. So anyway, anyway, back to our. By the way,
Regularly scheduled program?
Yeah, regularly scheduled. I will, because of this, I will be gone Wednesday and Thursday. Steve and I were talking about this. I was debating on whether or not to do something on Christmas Eve. Oh, by the way, Steve, thanks for the models. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. I thought they'd go nice with your collection.
They will. And I'm, and I know that Bondi makes some really nice kits too.
Did you show the Subaru? I didn't see it.
Yeah. Here, hold on. The Aero Subaru, and
does it come with a dog like the cars do?
I don't know. Actually, it comes with a couple of people. It comes with several rather nice figures in there in 148 scale. Well, 148 scale Japanese people, so a little smaller. But that weird stand that Bondi likes that's got that funny shape to it. Wait. And breaks very easily. So what's interesting is they give you a stand for an airplane with a fixed gear on it. But I'm trying to do a pretty job on this. And but Ken was right in what he said, that in Japan they don't actually have a private pilot's license for the sake of having a private pilot's license. These trainers, I would imagine, are either corporate or used for training airline pilots or something like that. But I was reading this article, and they said they have an office of general aviation, and the guy's sole job is to deny applications for a private pilot's license. It's weird. It's a Japanese thing. So people fly ultralights, but you're not allowed to fly an ultralight over land unless you own it. So they rent this field. Well, the guy was off field when the motor quit, and he didn't quite make it back to the field. He went in the mud. And before the police could get out there, everybody in the club drove out in their little pickup trucks, yanked the thing out of the mud, drove it back to the airfield. So by the time the cops got there, they were water hosing all the mud off of it. And the cops knew what had happened, but they didn't have a case, so they let it go. But I was like, that. And, you know, some countries are even worse. It's not like there's a big flying club in North Korea or Cuba.
Well, there is, but it's a one-way flight.
Oh, by the way, quick side note. You guys may recall that just recently, and a clip of it taken by a boater went quasi-viral. A Cuban crop duster pilot took an old AN-2, which is their big cabin class biplane that was designed in the 30s and they still make today, I think. And he defected like a month ago here to Florida. But there's more to the story. Some boaters caught some footage of him flying by. I mean, we haven't had an airborne defection out of Cuba in decades. But I guess he's just gotten tired of the way things were done. And I've gone to Cuba a lot in my job now that it's opened up. And I've actually seen, I think I saw the variant because I would go into, it wasn't Habana, I forget, it might have been Holguin or Holguin or Santa, I think it was Santa Clara. And there were like 5 of these old AN-2s that were parked over there that were just crop dusters. From the outside, from the distance, they looked pretty good because they kept the paint on them. Apparently, the insides are pretty rusted out. And I'm sure it was one of those airplanes that the guy boogied in. Well, there's more to the story, though. He lands in Florida, you know, and I guess now that they had this rusty old AN-2, they had to do something with it. So they hired a couple of guys to ferry the airplane somewhere else. I guess they wanted it off the airport. And the 2 pilots that were hired to ferry it were about midway when the engine started sputtering. And they tried to make a forced landing, an off-field landing, and it flipped over. No one was hurt, but I don't think the plane actually wasn't damaged all that bad, but I don't think they're going to bother to try and fix it. So
it's Russian. It's built like tank.
It's built like tank.
Well,
fly like one too.
well, you know why it took them so long to have another defection by air?
Why?
It took them that many years to get enough gas.
I was going to say probably shorted them on the fuel. Apparently defections during the when the Russians went in Afghanistan, and they were using a lot of Afghan pilots. So many Afghan pilots on the helicopters were defecting to Pakistan that they started shorting their fuel, so they couldn't do it. And that thing didn't have a long range to begin with. They shorted the fuel on Apollo 10. Stafford and Cernan were taking the lunar module down around the moon, down to about 60,000 feet or even lower. And it was a dress rehearsal. And they knew astronauts well enough that they were afraid the guys might try an unauthorized landing. So they shorted their fuel. You go down, you ain't coming back.
That's a good incentive.
I think they shorted the fuel in the ascent stage. But anyway. So anybody that was familiar with that story, that airplane has since cracked up. And my my guess is that What? What are you
Did you
getting?
hear Ricky Wolf wrote? The Russians are converting their AN-2s as drones for ops in Ukraine.
Too soon.
They're converting over anything that'll fly in Russia.
Well, I saw something today, like an entire freaking division surrendered or something like that. I mean, I don't blame them either. I mean, none of these guys want to be there. And, I mean, be like us invading Canada. One, they're our cousins. And second, none of us want, I mean, no. Just no. I'm not doing it.
You must have just seen Canadian bacon recently.
I did. Yeah, this one's under arrest for filling putting unleaded gas in an unleaded tank. This one, they're arrested for being in a permanent bad mood. That movie was so bad, I loved it. I loved Dan Aykroyd as the traffic cop. Thanks to our laws, you have to rate your Canadian insults in 2 languages.
Must have an equal amount in French on the truck. When I saw that, I cracked up because I'd gone through that for years. Every time we do packaging on something to send into Canada. But they have the language. Yeah, they have the language police. They go into stores and they look at packages, and if it's not equal, they pull it off the shelf, they return it to you, and they fine you.
I like what Craig Swain said. If we invaded Canada, they just invite us for dinner. I'll tell you what would happen if we invaded Canada. We'd wind up spending a bunch of money and coming home.
Yeah, with maple syrup.
The best maple syrup.
I have to send you a video. There's this Canadian comedy company called 22.
Uh-huh.
And they have a like a video that goes to the theme of It's All About the Base, and it's about Trudeau, and it's called It's All About the Face, insinuating that the only reason he's there is because he's a pretty boy.
Well, I don't think too many people would argue that. One thing, if we do invade Canada, I'm just going to tell the commanding officer, look, I got friends up here. Would you mind if I visited them?
Yeah.
The thing is, if we, people, my brother was saying when they're in the Air Force, they'd fly missions to Canada. They'd have to brief the air crews, listen, you idiots, Canada is another country. You have to clear customs.
Right.
You have to be nice. You're an ambassador. Do not make that 51st state of America crack or any of that other stuff. Yeah, it's another country. And they're like, yeah, sure, it's Canada. I'm like, no, dadgummit, it's another country.
They have different money. They have different laws. They have different language.
They have cleaner streets.
William Shatner was from Canada.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
It's true.
Hey, I trained up in Montreal in the dead of winter, and I tell you what, I like Canada. I had a really great time up there, and
William Shatner went to McGill University, and the drama school building is named after him.
Oh my God!
the drama school theater building.
You sure it's not the? Are you sure it's not the over drama school?
Yeah.
Welcome to the William Shatner School of Overacting.
Come on, there's many great Canadians in history. Robert Goulet.
Ryan Reynolds. Oh, yes, tons of them. And
Michael Bublé.
There was even some Canadian rock bands, too. I don't know any of the names, but I know there's some good ones from there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, let me tell you something about Canadians. Everybody Canadian, they are the nicest people that you'll ever meet. I mean, they are.
The only quote-unquote rude Canadian I met was an RCMP guy who was working at the airport, and I was in uniform. But the question I asked him kind of pissed him off. I mean, it's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. It's the RCMP. What do you think I asked him?
What do you think you asked him?
Where's
your horse?
Close enough. I was like, hey, do you mean the RCMP? Do you guys really have to be able to ride a horse? Yeah, get on your way. I'm going to take that as you're one of the guys who doesn't know how to ride a horse. And by the way, for those who have not had the pleasure of being to Canada, which is a wonderful place, especially in the springtime,
It is a beautiful.
the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which are essentially like a national police force, do not wear the red serge jackets and the campaign hats and the yodfers and riding boots unless they're doing like a ceremony or something like that. They wear standard police uniforms for regular stuff, which I personally found extremely disappointing.
Yes, it's not Sergeant Preston of the Yukon.
David Atkins says, "I'm Canadian. I'm just sitting here politely listening to this."
No insult intended. Everyone here loves Canada and loves.
That's because Canadians are polite.
They are.
My wife and I we were in Vancouver.
Oh,
And
I love that song up in Canada, and Kittinger just said, but then again, Nickelback. Well, sorry about Nickelback. Yeah, that was a mistake. Hey, I love that song up here in Canada. The Moral Canadian Marijuana Pickers. No, listen, you know, the thing is that, you know, about 30 or 40% of the glue troopers are Canadian. They have the strongest representation versus population on this channel. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad, but I'll take it.
Well, what else you got to do during this cold Canadian winters?
Well, that's true. It's a perfect weather for model building. And I'm sure that has something to do with it. But you know
like
what?
That
tell
hobby
you
shop we
something.
saw in Anchorage, Alaska. It's the most well-stocked hobby shop I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's true. But I'll tell you something, guys, and you guys know this probably, especially the Canadians. Canadians are nice, but they got a mean streak. And there's two ways I can prove they got a mean streak. Talk to anybody who was ever a POW of the Canadians, like a German that got captured by the Canadians. They would surrender to anyone before they would surrender to the Canadians. And watch a hockey game. Because as our channel friend, Fast Sports points out, because he's a hockey player, he's kind of like, we let all the angst out on the hockey, you know. That's why I swear to God, one of my favorite comedies is Letterkenny. At least the older Letterkenny. The new stuff's okay, but which is a Canadian comedy. I've always enjoyed Canadian comedies, but Letterkenny is in a world to itself. And that was something that started on YouTube.
Ricky, hang on. Ricky Wolf just said, it's like we love Americans but could not eat a whole one.
Especially not my... That's because we're all so freaking overfed down here, you know? Oh, okay. I want to show you guys...
Let Steve talk. He's been trying to get a word in there.
Okay.
Hockey is nothing but legalized fight club.
Yeah. You know what we call rugby. I want to show you guys something.
I'll tell you a funny story about Canada and how nice and everything. My wife and I are on vacation in Vancouver. We're staying in this really nice hotel. So we go out to dinner on a Friday night. And all these people are pulling up in expensive cars, dressed to the teeth. We're like, wow, what's going on here? We go out to dinner. We come back. They're all coming out and getting in their cars. So we go back to our room. We put on the local news. It was Michael Bublé's wedding. The next morning, we get up and go to have breakfast, and I'm reading the paper. The headline is, "Thieves rob Michael Bublé's house while he celebrates wedding." And I said, gee, I thought they only did that in the States.
This is we were coming home last night. I did a 3-day trip, which was just one of the worst trips I've been on ever. We didn't, but the saving grace was we saw this on the way home. That is Elon popping up a couple of satellites. And and the camera doesn't do it justice. But we sat there just, with our faces against the windows like a couple of kids outside a candy store. And, well, either that or we shot a missile at Canada. It's one of the two. But
where was this?
This was last night. By the way, we're over like Greensboro. So, and we're seeing this thing go out of the Cape. So we're up in the Carolinas, and that's cell phone footage from 34,000 feet.
Herman Hambrush just said something really funny. He says, curling, because bowling is not boring enough. They have to slow it down, put it on ice, and add housework.
That's great.
Well, that's like what was it? Oh gosh, when I was at Fort Campbell, they had a rugby field. And for those who are not familiar with rugby, it's basically football without the soccer with football rules. I mean, American football rules and no pads. But anyway, it literally said rugby, an elegant form of violence for men of all classes. But and the guys are coming out the rugby field, broken fingers, bloody noses. Oh, I love this. I'm kind of like, okay, dude, I'll go build my room and build my model. Yes, Teenage and Sack. I did get your Greenland photos.
You know who love hockey?
Who that?
The Japanese.
Japanese. I've never even associated them with hockey.
Yep. When I worked at Olympus and lived in New York, the Japanese all belonged to the local hockey, like association where they had like a, group of teams and they played each other for like eliminations. They were all the Japanese guys. They loved it.
Huh. Put enough violence in a game, you're going to have fans.
Did they
and in hockey, they issue clubs.
Each other up?
No, they just were happy.
They didn't have to apologize, huh?
Right. They could get all their frustrations, and it was like in the spirit of the game.
So, anywho, it's not surprising. I just made this connection, something that you mentioned earlier, Ken, about the weather. Have you noticed that model building, and this is not an absolute, but you've noticed it tends to be more intense in areas that do have a lot of cold weather. It's big in Japan. That's where most of the factories are. It's big in Canada, United States, especially the northern United States. The northern U.S. IPMS clubs are way bigger than the southern ones. Of course, they often have population density. It's big in Germany. My understanding is the Russians love to do it. And all these places have brutal winters, in common. So,
don't forget Alaska.
Oh, yeah, Alaska, absolutely. And,
I have some information.
What?
What's that?
There's been a lot of speculation about what's going on with Ravel.
Yeah. Oh, you get some dirt?
It is now Carrera Ravel.
So you think Carrera bought them?
Carrera, the slot car company.
Yeah. So
there's still slot car companies around?
Oh, yeah. Carrera and Skeletric.
Skeletrics and Carrera are still around, yeah. You got the better hobby shops, man. They still got a bunch of that stuff in stock.
Yeah.
Where do they sell it?
All the hobby stores, Hobby Lobby, a lot on Amazon.
You see, Ken, although it's not like the mid-'60s where they couldn't make them fast enough, you have to remember, kids buy these things, play with them a couple of years, tear them up, and then they make a crop of new kids and they buy new ones.
The perfect product.
Now, speaking of which, I have a question, guys. I unboxed what Steve sent me. I have this very large box from Tom Daniel, the famous Tom Daniel, the Tom Daniel. And I told my wife, I'm going to open this, unbox it on camera. But then I opened it up, and there's a card, which I shall read, which has one of TD's cards in it of the Red Baron car. Max, Merry Christmas, have fun, TD. And a nice little smiley face guy there with it. I mean, the guy's he's 85 and he's still a great artist. And I was like, and then I opened all this up. And, get off. They're all individually wrapped.
Sligo's messing with you.
What? What'd he say? What'd he say?
It says Ravel just isn't the real Ravel unless it was made in California.
Well, yeah, a lot of people feel that way. If it wasn't Venice, yeah.
Well, it hasn't been the real Rebel then for about 50 years.
Well, but this brings up my dilemma. Should I put these under the tree and open them on Christmas Eve, which our family does, or should I open them here on camera, or maybe I should do some of each?
Do some of each.
Okay.
Well, you know what I suggested.
I forget, Ken.
Yeah, you told them to build them all.
I told him since he got them from one of his fans, he should open at least some of them on the live stream so that they could see his joy on his face.
Well, it's almost more the other way around. I'm one of TD's fans. Well, what do you guys think? Let's hear from open it. Put them under the tree. Oh man, gifts. I love to get gifts. Open it. Okay, I'm going to call that 2, 2, and 1. 2, 2, and 2. We're going to the population. It's even money.
Open some, put some under the tree.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do.
Going down to 40 degrees in Florida tonight. Yeah, we got winter here too.
I wonder what this could be. That was my favorite sound as a kid. To pick up a box with my name under the Christmas tree and hear a styrene rattle.
Did you ever get something like socks or T-shirts or something like that? And you're like, wow, that was a waste.
You pick them up and go, I know what this is, squishy. Yeah, socks. Yeah. Okay, well, let's open.
Okay, what else we got?
Okay, and there's a big box in here, too. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the 2 mystery boxes under the tree.
You're getting quite a few Christmases.
Yeah. I'm going to open.
This is like Hanukkah.
And there's a big box in here.
How many are in there?
4, including.
Why don't you do it like Hanukkah and open one every night?
Or just open 2 tonight and 2 on Christmas.
Okay. I'm going to say the 2 little ones for Christmas Eve, and I'm going to open the 2 big ones now. And let's see what that first one is. The happiest sound on earth.
Okay, somebody else made a good suggestion.
What's that?
If you put it under the tree, you have to put it in a video.
Okay.
Assuming everybody's appropriately dressed.
A 2023 classic aircraft calendar. Perfect for an aviophile like myself. Let's see what we got. Let's take a look at the pictures real quick. This is my thumbnail for that.
Don't shake babies or model boxes. Oh, cool. Nice calendar.
Okay.
How classic are the classics?
Yeah. You can't go wrong with aeroplanes. Aviation.
Also, don't shake boxes with cookies in them.
Broken cookies have fewer calories. Unless you lick up the crumbs. All right. Oh, God. In a bit of bitter irony, the airplane on the cover is a King Cobra. Yeah. For those who don't know, sadly, the only flying King Cobra recently crashed hitting a... Okay, here's a beautiful one of a P-40E Warhawk. Downing the evil enemy fighter. That one is by Sammy Pierce. This is a Mustang.
Max, by the way, I'm going to be up your way Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to bring your Christmas present with me.
Oh, Sammy Pierce is the ace of the 49th. Okay.
P-51. I don't think you heard that, Ken.
Max.
Huh? What?
I said I'm going to be up your way Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to bring your Christmas present with me.
Oh, okay. You can take the Cirrus and the B-25 back with you.
Oh, okay.
Over that. There's a Tuskegee Airman in a P-39 Air Cobra. That must have been before they painted the red tails on it. It does have a red spinner. Here is a D model T-Bolt, Thunderbolt. And then we take us through March. Airplane porn. Aha. Korean War era Corsair. Probably a midway class carrier.
Darkwood says 2023, the perfect gift for the optimist.
Oh, P-51. Jettisoning those drop tanks. Getting ready to go after the bad guys. Oh, he's going to climb. And here is Tuskegee Airman Lieutenant Herman Ace Lawson, P-40L model. And slugging a bomb. Slugging a bomb. Oh, here's Roscoe Brown, Tuskegee Airman down in an ME-262.
Hiya.
And let's see what we got. Here's
Very
a
high
cover. Pretty
in
color.
the in my
Hello.
bathroom in the middle top drawer.
What's in the middle top drawer?
I'm going to kill him
It's
for a second.
something at home. It's
Be back with you guys in just a second.
we're good. We're good.
Okay, we're back. Apparently another call had to come in on that line of a personal nature. Oh, this is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen it. This is the only painting I've ever seen of an American fighter plane shooting down a Stuka. You know, you normally think of the RAF and them as shooting down the Stukas during the Battle of Britain. P-38 Lightning being flown by Colonel William Leverett. Now, they use the Stuka
Didn't the
throughout the whole war.
P-51 shoot down just about everything?
Oh, here's one that was made for me.
Is it a barbecue picture?
It's the
Is it a
Marine Corps
C-130?
DMSB 241 Vultee Vindicators at Midway.
Ah.
And you will notice the dark rudder on this thing is darker than the rest of the airplane, because between Coral Sea and Midway was when the military realized the red and white rudders we were putting on these airplanes were making really good targets for the Japanese and confusing the guys on the ground. So they had to put, but the regular light gray paint just wouldn't cover it up because the red and white's so bright. So they were putting really heavy coats of the dark gray to blot it out. There's a buffalo in the background. He's doomed. Ooh, paratroopers, man, Pathfinders. This is night before D-Day. That'd be probably Captain Lillyman and his men. That's probably my unit, 101st, or it's the 82nd. A mighty Goonie Bird. And they use that airplane for everything. Ah, Old Crow. P-51. That's December. That's beautiful. Beautiful calendar. That's going to hang up in here.
Who's doing the artwork? Is this different artists or the same guy?
You know, let me see. It has the names of the people who the airplane is of, but I'm not seeing. Oh, Stan Stokes. Yeah. The artist is in little names. These it looks like these are all Stan Stokes, who's a famous artist in aviation. Yeah, amazes me is how fast he's. You know, Mike was telling me that it takes them months to research these things and then a week to paint them. I can't believe they can do artwork like that in a week. It takes me that long to tie my shoes.
That's amazing. Yeah, that they could do something that detailed and that intense in just a week.
And this one's to Captain Max from TD. One kit I definitely have wanted to get and did not have. The Phantom Mustang.
Whoa!
The what?
The Phantom Mustang.
Phantom
The
Mustang?
With all the internal
Clear
parts.
body.
Oh, the see-through Mustang?
Yeah, and it's got
Yes.
the operating gear and the prop spins and everything. I saw one at a repop of one at Hobby Lobby a while back, but it was in the clearance bin because it had been opened, and I was sure it had been robbed for parts, so I didn't get it. And this is an original monogram. This isn't a repop.
I remember that. I remember that model.
I had that kit.
So one kit that
It's a
always
neat kit
eluded
when
me.
it fits.
TJ McCoy says, my old boss was a P-38 pilot in Europe.
Ah. Well, thank you, TD. And I'm going to save the other two and put them down by the Christmas tree. That is awesome sauce.
What scale is that?
Hmm?
What scale is the P-51?
That's large scale. That is 1/32 scale.
Cool. Can I put an electric motor in it?
It has a working motor and gear and everything.
That's what.
It has
I mean, one of my motors. Put some servos in there, too. We'll fly that sucker.
Ken, you are a sick man.
It's like the knell of death.
Ken reminds me of the guy who was in an engineering battalion in the Army. And every time he sees a structure, his brain automatically goes, how much explosive would I need to bring that down, and where would I need to put it?
Yeah.
What can I say? I'm a problem solver.
And these are going under the tree.
No, I won't.
They're talking at you, Ken.
They are. They don't want me to touch it.
Don't paint the outside of the P-51. Well, maybe just
Hey, that's
one
one model I
side.
actually don't have to paint.
Zinc chromate the inside of one side, aluminum one side of the fuselage. I've seen guys that have done that. They take the Phantom Mustang and they'll zinc chromate the inside of one side and then put aluminum on the outside and then you leave the other side clear. Which is kind of a cool way to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And but got to be careful with that though, because you're talking about all the moving parts. So actually, watch where you put the glue. Well, thank you, TD. I appreciate that. I wonder how many people have bought that model and did such a bad job they just went ahead and painted the whole thing. Nothing works, so I just shot it OD green.
More than you think.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if you...
By the way, Max, flying is the easy part. Landing is the problem.
Yeah, tell me about it. I don't know how many guys are familiar with an Ernest K. Gann book. They made a movie out of it called, I think it was The Last Flight of Noah's Ark.
I fly Wonder Woman's invisible plane at the RC Club.
There you go.
What do you mean when I solve a problem, I create 5 more? It flew. It flew twice.
Look, that's more than I got out of any of my Gwillows builds. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a movie called The Last Flight of Noah's Ark.
Sounds like crickets to me.
No, it's The Last Flight of Noah's Ark is based on a book by Ernest K. Gann, and it's almost like a Disney movie. And they take a B-29, they're trying to fly a bunch of animals out of it. They wind up crashing at sea, kind of a Swiss Family Robinson sort of thing, and they wind up turning the wrecked B-29 into a raft. And anyway, when they filmed the movie, much to my utter amazement, they managed to get their hands on 4 or 5 B-29s, one of which was in flying condition. So that's a real B-29 they cut up, which is kind of a sin against nature, but I guess it was already pretty cut up. But Barry Steinledge, I believe it was, had sent me a B-29 fuselage in addition to the B-29s that I have. And I was saying, well, maybe I'll dress up the interior and make a display out of it. My brother told me that. I was saying, well, that's kind of something you could do with it. Make the airplane or the boat they made out of the wreckage of the airplane from The Last Flight of Noah's Ark. I'd have to go. I've only seen bits and pieces of the movie, but what shocked me was like, wait a minute, because this was done before CGI. That's a real B-29. Where the heck did they find a flying B-29? Because there's like 2 of them in the world.
That's just wrong.
Yeah. There's a special place in hell for people who do things like that.
Oh man, that.
Well, my dad
I
was.
like.
My dad was
I like
a
sailing, but to put them on an airplane.
Did you guys know that the B-29 development of the B-29 actually cost more than the Manhattan Project?
Yes.
And
I'd heard that the B-29 was built and designed to drop the atomic bomb.
Yes. Well, in 1935, they started working on the idea of a hemispherical bomber because they knew that they might lose England, and everyone knew that Iceland and Greenland were kind of pro-Nazi, so they might lose them as well. They might have to bomb them from New York or from Iceland or from Greenland. So they started working on the B-36 long before the war began. But the B-36 was kind of an overly ambitious project. Well, about this time, they already knew the theory behind nuclear weapons, but it hadn't gotten any money until the war broke out. And so they started working on the B-29, I think right at the outbreak or just before the war, I forget offhand. But it was always intended to be a nuclear bomber. And that's one of the reasons it was pressurized. So it could go up high because they knew there's any chance of the crew surviving. Mark Felton did I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with the historian Mark Felton. He did a thing on the British nuclear mission during World War II. The British were considering, apparently, or at least they claimed they were considering dropping nukes with Lancasters. And somebody else, and I forget who it was one of the aviation channels that's pretty popular. I don't know if it was Aviation History or The Chieftain, which is primarily an armor channel. But one of the YouTubers does a lot of research that said he basically didn't say that Felton wasn't. I mean, Felton had his sources, but I think he was approach saying that those sources were full of crap. There's no way a Lancaster was going to drop a nuke unless it was a suicide mission. It just didn't have the performance to get out of the blast radius. I don't know if that's true or not. But that the B-29 would have been the only platform.
David Atkins doesn't agree with you. He said the B-29 was unnecessary. The Lancaster could do the job, but American pride nixed that.
I don't know. He may be right. But somebody put up a counter thing why the Lancaster.
When they dropped the nuke, the Lancaster would probably catch on fire because it was made out of wood.
Well, actually, it had a lot of magnesium in it, but the smaller nukes
that burns too.
Tibbets, I mean, he was flying a pretty fast airplane that was all stripped down. He said when they dropped it, of course, they did their hard turn and banked away. And they got rattled pretty freaking bad. I mean, it was like they had trouble keeping the airplane upright. And that was a little, 5 or 7 KT bomb they dropped. Anything bigger, they knew they were going to need bigger, faster airplanes that could drop from higher altitude, more standoff. That's one reason they got into the parachute delayed stuff. By the time the jets are coming out, most of the nukes, you dropped them and immediately deployed a drag chute, so the jet could just keep trucking straight and the bomb would go straight down, and it would come down slower because they had to buy time. The Navy was trying to get into the nuclear program. You guys have probably heard of the revolt of the admirals. And the Navy was very concerned because the Air Force was getting all this money. I mean, a huge amount of the defense budget was going to the Strategic Air Command. To the fact that they were forgetting fighter planes even existed. And the long and the short of it was that the admirals, they basically lied to Congress and started. I mean, it was effectively a legitimate conspiracy to try and they were trying to get into the nuclear game. The irony of the whole thing is that the dominance of the bomber and all that money that was going into them was only about a 10-year window before the missiles took over. And then the bomber guys were left in the background, it's all missiles now. And then the Navy got their missiles working, and all of a sudden they were back in the game. But in the meantime, the Navy tried to put nukes on anything they could launch off a carrier. The Vigilante was supposed to be a nuke bomber, and a couple others were. The Sky Warrior was designed to be a nuke bomber. That's why it's such a big jet that went on a carrier, so they could have part of that mission. But in one of the it was Greg's Aviation Automobiles that did the piece on the Lancaster. It was Greg. Thank you. That's who it was. And he to his credit, Greg has no axe to grind. He's got the most monotone voice. He's very balanced in what he says. He has the data to back it up. So I tend, and he does his research. I tend to give him considerable credence. And he was one that did the counter to Mark Felton. That doesn't mean that the mission wasn't planned, or they wouldn't have done it. But the odds of it being successful, as in the plane coming back home, apparently were not terribly promising. I mean, it couldn't have done it, but who knows? They may have pulled it off, got back in one piece. Fortunately, we never had to find out. So, but anyway, the Navy actually even had a nuke that they were going to put on a Sky Raider. And I remember reading, I mean, this plane goes, 200, 210 wide open. And I remember, these guys are coming and doing the Livestreams, where they come in the jet and they pull up real steep and they drop the bomb, and the bomb would arc one way and the airplane would just go the other way, and they're going in separate directions. And the Air Force was doing this in B-47s and 6-engine jet bombers. And I was reading an article by one of the pilots who flew it. He said he did one Livestream. He's roaring in, and these early jets, I mean, they were stressing the crap out of them. And they're hauling back, and of course the B-47 flew like a fighter, but it's still a long-wing bomber. And he's arcing up, and the bombardier pickles off the test unit, which is, simulated bomb. He pulls all the way, on its back, and then rolls it level and hauls butt the other way. They're getting cracks in the wing spars and all this other stuff. And he's like, that's when he decided that his mother loved him more than the Air Force did. And, but he said the worst thing that was just showing you how into this the military brass had gotten was a Sky Raider comes in at wide open, like 220 miles an hour, pulls up, tosses a little pocket nuke that he has on board, goes on his back, rolls away, and he goes, when the thing hit the ground where it would have detonated or got to its detonation point, that Sky Raider was like right there. He's like, he was going to get eaten by that bomb. He might as well just detonate it on the wing. You were not escaping a nuclear blast in that airplane. He's like, what were these people thinking? But, but don't forget, this is the day of the nuclear-armed bazooka. Remember we had the Davy Crockett? Basically a glorified recoilless rifle that lobbed a nuke, and you were inside your own blast radius. First thing you did when you set up the Davy Crockett was dig a trench. So when you fired it, everybody could dive in the trench and hopefully survive their own nuclear blast.
Vigilante was supposed to drop the nukes out of the back.
Yeah, and that whole idea there was he could go in Mach 2, punch them straight out of that tube, that pneumatic tube or hydraulic tube. They would pop out, a little drag chute would open, they'd drop, and the jet would just keep screaming away at Mach speed. They never got that system to work reliably. Apparently, one of the big problems it had was, now mind you, this is what I've read. Obviously, I never flew the RA-5 or the A-5, but one of the problems they had was when they would cat launch them, the G-loading going off the deck would dislodge everything. So they'd try to drop the thing, and either they'd all fall out or none of them would. And I'm like, you guys put men on the moon on slide rules, yet the same engineers couldn't figure out how to make this system work. And they're like, yeah, it's not going to work as a nuke bomber, but it's going to make one heck of a recon plane, and it did. And I know some people that flew them as reconnaissance aircraft, and they were like, he's screaming through it, Mach 2.2 or something with the cameras rolling. Wasn't nobody going to touch you?
Chuck said the Army wanted an atomic hand grenade.
Well, he's not right. And Jack's talking about the atomic cannon, Atomic Annie. And I'm sorry, when I'm lobbing a nuke, I wanted to go far enough that I don't even see the mushroom cloud. Never mind get enveloped by it. The nuclear-powered bomber, man, everything. But you got to admit, atomic energy, nuclear bombs, if there's one thing they gave us, it was some really, really good science fiction. That episode of The Simpsons where Bart and his friends shell out a bunch of money to buy Atomic Man, issue number 1. And they're looking at him as he gets caught in the atomic blast and becomes a superhero. And the smart one's kind of like, I did not think that's how that would have worked. And Bart goes, well, now you know better. Yeah, a radioactive man. That's a radioactive man. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I do not think radiation works how you think radiation works.
Hey, look what it did for Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly my point. I haven't seen any web slingers, you know. So, by the way, on another note, getting to cars, automobiles, you know, I'm glad to see that Jay Leno gave an interview. He's doing a lot better after he got burned real bad. You think sending him a model, it was a steam-powered car that he talked about what happened. I was like, you think sending him a model of it might be in bad taste?
No. Could show him what he did wrong.
You got to have a little flaming character running around.
Steve and I were talking the other day about that that toy that kids could get that actually had nuclear material in it.
What was that thing, Steve?
The Gilbert Atomic Energy Lab.
Tell me that wasn't the 50s.
It was.
You do your own
You know why Jay got burned, don't you?
I know what he said happened.
No, it was karma because he had Joe Biden in his Corvette on his Jay Leno's Garage Show.
Nah, you know, Biden actually called him after that to wish him well. Just remember, radiation and Legos never ends up well.
Yeah. Especially if you're stepping on either one of them.
Well, somebody sent me this picture a while back. You'll see it in a few seconds. But it's the perfect example of why you don't leave Legos on the floor and, you know, you don't play with radiation. Radioactive Legos. There's the toy that spells disaster.
Oh, and don't forget Godzilla.
Have you seen the
But
picture
they
I
glow
just
in the
put up?
dark.
Did you see the picture I just put up?
Well, I meant Godzilla, you know, product of nuclear.
Well, that was my joke, Ken. That's why you don't play with radiation and Legos.
Yeah, okay.
That's where I was going with it. Oh, when you have to explain them, there's a punchline dies.
Oh, Michael Niven's got an interesting comment.
What's that?
My father did tests with tactical nuclear weapons tests with the F-100. The test was a failure, and my father survived only because the pilot was the best, and they walked away from a belly landing.
Wow.
So he's here because of a failed nuclear test.
Does he have 6 fingers? Maybe it didn't fail as much as they thought it did. Mwaha.
My father-in-law participated in the atomic tests in Bikini. He was in the Navy. And he told the story that when they would have the blackout goggles on and they would close them off, he said you could put your hand up in front of the blackout goggles and you could see your bones.
Well, that's certainly encouraging. But you have to remember...
And guess what he passed away from?
Cancer?
What?
The big disease.
Yeah.
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, you have to remember, this is a society where we put kids on swings that weren't anchored to the ground. We drove cars without seat belts with spears for steering columns. You know, I remember personally riding in a child seat in my mom's car, which was nothing more than a papoose hanging on the bench seat. And, you know, we drank out of water hoses, rode around the back of trucks. I mean, it was an adventure.
No padded dashes.
No padded dashes. It was an adventure right around the back of a pickup truck. My dad had a flatbed, so we had to hang on for dear life.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Oh, God, so much fun. So much fun.
That was a test.
Don't forget the Atomic Boy Scout?
Oh, yeah. We talked about him recently. The kid who was getting, was it radium out of the smoke detectors, was it?
Oh, that was him?
Yes.
I mean, and he wound up dying of exposure to that stuff because he wouldn't stop, you know. I mean, he had an affliction, I guess. I don't know. But there's a lot to be said for a society that, you know, toughens up kids by just letting them learn through doing stupid stuff. I mean, yeah, you're going to lose a few of them along the way, but, it's a price you pay to have, to weed them out, I guess. It's Darwinism, man.
It's that can-do attitude.
There you go. And
I read that. No, I saw a thing on TV or read a story in England a few years ago. They had playgrounds that had all this stuff that we used to play with when we were kids. That's considered dangerous now. Because parents wanted their kids to explore, like we did, but they did have people standing around outside, I guess, just to make sure the kids didn't do something really stupid. But it gave the kids a chance to, learn from their experiences and understand that there are consequences to doing some stupid things.
Guys,
what you're saying is each one of these playgrounds had their own EMT staff?
John put it best, acceptable losses. I want you to look at these pictures and just tell me if you ever did any of this. And if you did, I think your life has been richer for it, because the idea of, I get it. People don't want to see their kids get hurt, but by golly, man, you bumps and bruises.
I've done that a few times.
And we all know the Satan spit of mercurochrome, although by the time I was growing up, there was also Bactine, which didn't sting so much. But
we had so much mercurochrome on, we looked like Indians.
and the beauty of all that, though, is that it's one of the things that toughens you up is you didn't want to cry in front of your dad. So if mom slapped that stuff on and dad was there, you get the tears are rolling up here, but you were not going to let it out. And that proud moment, your father, my kid's not a sissy. And that was worth
like
it.
when Ralph broke his glasses with the Red Ryder rifle.
Exactly. And but come on, they call them the good old days for a reason.
Plastic Slave. He says, "Of course I did that kind of stuff. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I had to practice ejection."
Hey, I swear, that was one of the excuses we used. That is actually one of the excuses that we used.
We jumped off a TV tower with bed sheets as a parachute.
I jumped out of a tree with ropes on a old parachute harness, practicing what I'd seen them doing at airborne school.
And this is where they got the idea for Jackass.
Yes, pretty much. But we also had cool models to build, too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I know I've said it before and I really believe it. I think we kind of grew up in the golden window. Kids before us really did eat dirt, and kids after us don't know how. But this is back when NASA was propelling rockets with red fuming nitric acid. Just the sound of that could put blisters on your skin.
What could possibly go wrong with that stuff?
Yeah. Man, we were all going to be playing golf on the moon by now.
I remember when wasn't it you and I, Max, that we were in the rocket garden and we were reading the plaques about what fueled those things, and we're like, what in the world is red fuming nitric acid?
Just don't get it on your skin, breathe it, or even look at it. Oh, dear God. I believe you made a comment.
Redstone and the Titan were like that, weren't they?
Yeah. And I think you made a comment. I was like, what is red fuming nitric acid? And you were like, you should know you produce enough of it after barbecue.
Oh.
Okay, I just made that up.
Oh, I do not remember ever saying
You did not say that, but I'm sure you thought it. But
well, I did think hazmat.
That's one thing about being in a cockpit with one other guy. There's no lying about who farted.
Oh, speaking of things doing, back then that you wouldn't dare do now, back when I was in high school, we had a shooting range in the basement of one of the buildings, and kids actually brought rifles to school to shoot in contests after school.
We not only had that, although it was outside, we not only had that, we had a rifle team, so we had 22 rifles in the ROTC armory, which was very secure, by the way. And we had a whole bunch of course, had a bunch of D-wadded rifles for drill and ceremony that you couldn't shoot. But, oh yeah, those good times. They do, however, still here in Florida, they have what they call pea shooters. And what they is they do have rifle teams, but they use air rifles. And but they're pretty accurate, though.
Did you put teachers' faces on the targets?
No, we did not do that.
Shaggy Bud says he sent you a picture, a nuke picture, since we were talking about nukes.
Let me open up the old email here. We did have, I've talked about this before, because it was a fairly rural community, we did have okay, a new twist on the nuclear football. Hold on, let me download this. Hold on. But we, our principal did have a rifle rack in his office, so that students did not leave guns in their cars, mainly shotguns and stuff. So he did not leave guns in their cars, and it was because he's afraid to get broken into and get stolen or something. So you would bring it in breech open. They were very big on the proper etiquette. You'd bring it in breech open and take it to Mr. Deason's office, and he'd put a tag on it with your name, and you could pick it up when you left school. Let me Shaggy Buzz.
So you could walk into school with a rifle in your hand or a shotgun in your hand and not get tackled.
You went straight from your car to the office, which was in front of the school, with the breech open or in a rifle bag, one of the two. You didn't like go in waving it around or anything. Here's Shaggy Buzz's idea of the nuclear football. That is pretty clever. Let me just fit the screen.
Dub. Yeah, when I was a kid, we had water-powered rockets. Those things were a blast to play
I
with.
shot a bunch of those things.
Yeah.
And there's the nuclear football. Ken, you must be on a bigger delay than that.
Yeah, that was worth seeing. It's probably what that thing felt like when you had to haul it around.
Well, nukes are heavy, I tell you that. They still got one off of I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Tybee Island incident, but in Tybee Island, which is just up here north of Jacksonville, up in I think it's South Carolina. It might be Georgia, but I think it's South Carolina. Tybee Island, they had a B-47 on a night mission that was hit by an F-86 that was doing a night intercept, and I don't know what the deal was, or misjudged his distance, but the pilot actually rammed him. Now, the F-86 pilot ejected, and my understanding is he was safely recovered, but although obviously they lost the airplane. The B-47 crew tried to nurse their airplane over to, I believe it was Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, which was the closest military base, but the plane was in bad shape, so they had to get rid of the load, so they ditched the nuke. Now, it did not have what they call the pit, the nuclear core, the little trigger, but it still had the nuclear reacting material. So the bomb goes into the ocean right off Tybee Island, probably goes straight into the mud, and they never found it. And it's still out there today somewhere. And my guess is the Air Force would probably still have an active reward on it if someone could locate it. But they say that...
Well,
What?
Go ahead.
Well, they're going to say that by now it's under at least 4 or 8 feet of mud, most likely, which is actually a good natural insulator, so it's probably perfectly safe where it's at. And apparently the bomb casing didn't crack because it didn't set off any of their radiation detectors. There's still people that go out and look for it, kind of a hobby thing.
I think I just saw an article that the guy we traded for Brittany Grenier has it.
Um,
Too soon?
Yeah, that one's not going down easy anytime soon, but whatever. So, anywho, let's see. We got about 20 minutes left. You guys got any kit model stuff? Any builds you've been proud of? Bad kits, good kits? I saw that Atlantis had their Christmas party. I get their email, and they're planning to put out the sheriff or the marshal, and I might pick one of those up. I haven't built a figure like that in forever, and something different. Though I have no idea where I'd put it. Doesn't really go with anything I've got thematically.
Lance Ravel says, in my high school in the early 70s, we built black powder pistol kits in metal shops.
There you go.
Yeah, my art teacher was thrilled when I made a wooden .30 caliber 1919 half scale. She was actually kind of impressed. And I was like, well, you hand me square blocks of wood. I'm like, oh, it looks like a machine gun receiver. What do you expect? And oh, look, there's a round wooden dowel. Make a perfect barrel. Just got to drill some holes in it. And, hey, art imitates life.
Yeah, I've hit a few whole roll of red caps with a hammer. Yep, I've done that a few times.
Williams say that somehow blowing up or burning bad builds was somehow satisfying. It was. Doing the Tester C119 right now. I got my Aurora C119 right there.
How many of you remember Greenie Stickum caps?
Oh, yeah. I also remember the red stickers, too. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could stick them on the back of a shell, and it would shoot a red plastic bullet.
Yep.
Right.
About 20 feet.
We had one of those things.
Yeah, talk about muzzle drop.
I thought that thing was so. I tried doing it with the regular red caps, but it wouldn't stick. They wouldn't stay close enough to the little hole in there for it to really do anything.
I used to wonder who would. I used to wonder who would build a 1-to-1 scale model pistol, and then I realized actually that'd be the perfect thing if you want a wall hanger. Because the detail of the fidelity is great, but you're not hanging a real gun on the wall where someone would come and steal it.
Oh, speaking of wall hangers, I gotta send you a picture of what I just got.
What's that?
A couple of guys from the AutoZine sent me a bat from Batmobile that hangs on the wall.
A what? A bat from the Batmobile?
The bat phone from the Batmobile.
Huh.
The bat phone.
Yeah, there was a phone in the Batmobile, and it was shaped like a bat.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing that in the TV show with Adam West going, that is the worst ergonomic design I've ever seen.
Well, I got one.
Does it work?
No. It just looks smart. That's all the banners get. Perception is 9/10.
Perception is 9/10 of reality.
Yeah.
That's why I use a low grade camera. It makes my model builds look good.
We were going to talk to you about that. You need to go lower.
You need to move it back a little bit.
Maybe just a smidge out of focus.
It's kind of like on Tootsie, that movie, when the cameraman is in there and the guy in the control room is saying, "Hey, can you make her look better by backing up a little bit?" And he's like, "What, you want me to back up to Cleveland or something?"
Yep.
Yeah, been there, done that. And I do have the Betty Bomber here that I'm going to build the P-38 because I don't know if I'm going to well, the P-38 is Miss Virginia, so I'm going to do the Betty Bombers Yamamoto's, which is pretty straightforward. So I don't think I'll pose them together, but I'll try because they're different scales. But it would make a nice force perspective thing. I'll probably build a P-38 on its wheels. But when I build a Betty Bomber, my question is, on fire or not on fire?
Oh, on fire, absolutely.
With a P-38 behind it. There you go.
Well, if you hang them up, if you hang them up at the right angle, you can pull it off. But if you make, the
Say
thing
again?
is, if you make a diorama out of them, then you got to put them like 7 feet apart so the forced perspective will work. Like, where do you put them? That's definitely going in the new Tarbis when it's here. The guy I was telling you, Steve, I think about the guy said he I talked to someone about dressing on the interior. He said he does fiberglass floors. I was unfamiliar with fiberglass floors. I mean, I guess it would have a floor like a boat, but I don't know how much that would cost or if it's worth doing.
Or
Probably,
a Corvette.
or what? Or what?
I don't know. I mean, or a Corvette.
Okay.
Slego asked an interesting question. He says, "Is there a model of the Galaxy Quest?"
Yes, there is the Protector.
Yes.
I think is it Mobius or
Mobius.
Yeah, and
Mobius.
you can get it one of two ways. You get it built or not built, and obviously you want it not built. And we've been actually meaning to get one to add to the collection here, but it is not cheap either.
Meanwhile, I got a Johan Turbine car off of eBay.
Oh yeah.
Mint in the box. Still had the shrink on it.
Ooh.
Wow.
And it was molded in white, not some bizarre color.
Yeah, that brings up the question: are you ever going to build it?
This one I'm going to build because I got 2 others.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the turbine car. That's, one of the coolest things that never was.
That is the gold standard of car kits.
Yeah.
It's got the doors open, the hood opens, the trunk opens, the seats fold back, it steers, does everything but drive itself. Oh, yeah. That was one of the most expensive molds ever made for a model kit of a car, and Chrysler paid for a lot of it.
Yeah, it's like $250,000.
Yeah.
Just don't let it, when you get it, just don't let it end up like I did with my F-106, man. I mean, I've got it. I'm going to be using, I'm going to do a swamp scene with it. So I need, I've been looking at ways to do the water. It looks like acrylic's the popular thing. A lot of folks responded to my request. A lot of great YouTube links and stuff for ways to do it. But I need a 1/48 scale Yoda.
Just get some seaweed.
Well, Steve, just keep it away from mirrors. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Well,
meanwhile,
guys,
get a Star Wars Yoda, a Kenner Star Wars Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
Isn't that too big?
Well, you get the little one, the blister card size one.
That might work, yeah. Yeah. The one thing, there's plenty of Star Wars stuff around. There's never a shortage of that stuff. All right.
That is true.
Here's your trivia question. We all know about the X-Wing, the Y-Wing, the TIE Fighter. The B-Wing. What does the B stand for? Why do they call a thing shaped like a T a B-Wing?
Bomber?
Because it breaks?
Blade. It looks like a blade. And yes, I think it's the dumbest named fighter they have. But Steven had the kit, and he did a nice little job on it. I wish we kept it. You had the folding wings and the rotating cockpit. Because you try to get one of those kits now, they are ungodly expensive. But now he's saying that the Yoda's not to scale, but I'm thinking, you know what? If the guy went through like a dimensional portal into another dimension, who knows how big those people are in our universe? Yoda may be 6 feet tall in our universe. It's Star Wars. Anything can be true. By the way, speaking of which, I just saw, speaking of Star Wars actors, Adam Driver, who played the first millennial Sith, Kylo Ren. Adam Driver, I just saw the trailer for a new movie called 65. Apparently, he is a human with a ship full of people that crashes on Earth in the Jurassic period, 65 million years ago.
Yeah, I saw the coming attraction.
Yeah.
Yes. Looks interesting.
I said it looks like Jurassic Park meets what was it, Star Wars or whatever. It's just
Well, it was a long, long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away. Chuck, go ahead.
So,
It's
peaceful because we can.
So this dimensional portal, different size thing.
That's what they refer to as a plot device, like the Star Trek transporter. It's an excuse.
So how many adult beverages did you have when you came up with this?
Just the one, but it was in a water glass.
Oh, okay. We're dealing with volume as opposed to frequency.
Yes, there you go. Saves trips back and forth.
Actually, it was just his cough medicine.
Uber Eats for T-Rex. There you go. Star Wars meets Land of the Lost.
Yeah. And I'm happy to report I have beat it out of the state of New Jersey.
Hallelujah. Congratulations, my good man. You're
Which way are you going?
So what state are you
Down
in?
Delaware.
Back in Delaware.
Oh, yeah.
We're heading to the water.
Heading to the water.
I have the Kenner Hasbro B-Wing. Huge. Love it. Phaser 1X has that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the big Kenner job, not the... Steven had the LAMT kit model. Of course, any of those toys have gotten stupid expensive, and that Boba Fett thing, that prototype Boba Fett, is... Apparently, they're really hard to put a price tag on it because they only made like the 1 or the 2 as a pilot. Somebody got it, and it's like the holy grail.
Yeah, are you talking about the one that launches the missile off
Yep,
of his
that's
back?
the one. I learned about that in the TV show, The Toys That Made Us.
Yep.
You know what? I just thought of something. Let me go real, yeah. Craig sent me a picture of the Davy Crockett gun. Yeah, the bazooka with a nuke on the tip. I call it the nuke zooka. Let me real quick. Let's see. History.
So they're going back pre-wipeout meteor. Hopefully not too close to that event.
I reckon so. Man, how far down is that thing? You don't really appreciate, here it is.
The bad news, Ken, is they won't be able to get any energy for their pulse rifles or charge up their Tesla all-terrain vehicles.
Let me see. Get back to. Okay. I want to.
Kuda Killer just said something kind of strange. He said they stopped that Boba Fett because of a Battlestar Galactica toy mishap.
Oh, somebody choked on something, I think. Let's see.
I haven't heard.
One of the missiles from I think it was the Viper. Some kid swallowed it.
Yeah, and then everybody got scared because they're afraid it was a choking hazard.
Well, kids swallowed. I swallowed a nail once. I survived.
That explains a lot.
We were going to talk to you about your definition of survival, kid.
Yeah, okay.
That's why you set off the alarm when you go through the security thing at the airport every time.
No. That thing came out long ago.
Okay, that might be more information than any of us really want. I am going to put, if I don't screw up the video here, I am putting the link to that weird Nashville video about the Enterprise. If anybody wants to watch it, the guy really did his research. God bless him. And alrighty.
Is this movie like an updated Gilligan's Isle?
A regressive Gilligan's Island.
More of a Land of the Lost or Robinson Crusoe on Mars. There you go. Robinson Crusoe on Mars meets, let's go with the classics. Meets Jurassic Park. Well, guys.
Did you ever watch that La Brea show?
No, I never have.
They there's an earthquake in Southern California in the La Brea Tar Pits area, and these people fall in a hole and then go back to like prehistoric times, and it's like bizarre.
Man, they are really running out of ideas. They are running on vapors. Disney's put out a couple of duds in a row. I mean, they just cannot get their act together. Then a 3-year-old movie that's been in the can for 3 years, Top Gun Maverick, rakes in $1.5 billion plus. Oh well. Hey, give the people good action here, and they'll watch your show. Everybody's like,
the new Avatar movie came out last night.
oh, I'm sure it'll do well.
Well, they have to make like $1 billion to get their money back.
It's a cartoon. How can this be that hard?
It's not a cartoon.
It's all CGI.
A lot of it is, yeah.
Ken,
but
that is
I
a
wouldn't call it
fancy
a cartoon.
cartoon. Well, that's my opinion. If you're not dangling models from strings, it's not real special effects. I'm sorry. I'm a snob that way.
Okay.
See, little did you know, Ken, that Ed Wood was really a genius of special effects, according to Max. Because everything in this movie is dangled from a string.
I didn't say he did a good job. One of those flying saucers you use?
Yeah, it's a cartoon. No, it's not. It's not a cartoon. It's different. Cartoons are different from animation.
Make your case.
Make my case. Okay. Cartoons are done with celluloid and paint and frame by frame. Okay? Like they did like Bugs Bunny cartoons, stuff like that.
No.
Now they use computers to do it using models that, they generate a model and then they say, okay, let's move the model this way, and then the computer does that and handles the lighting. It's not the same thing. Totally different technology. It's like comparing a go-kart to a Mustang.
You know what? You're right, Ken. Because the animators who did cells put heart and soul in it. Whereas the CGI is as soulless as the computer chip in which it was rendered.
Boy, we get so
It's not like some craftsman, like you see on Sense of Scale, hand carving this beautiful physical model and painting it and putting probably literal blood in there as well as, sweat equity and love. It's just the heartless machine grinding out ones and zeros.
It's like Metropolis, Ken.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, fine. Y'all gonna gang up on me? Fine. Be that way.
Preach,
Max. Amen. And a hallelujah.
Pinocchio would be very disappointed in your observation.
Pinocchio wasn't a real boy.
I've got people on the comments that are agreeing with me.
Well,
But they're Canadian.
see.
So,
Let the Civil War begin. Let there be styrene hod.
Paul Burvitz is deep, Max.
God, it sounds more like a porno title, but anyway.
Lemire Crazy says, throw down. Animator here. Laugh out loud.
Hey, Ken, I'll pit your keyboard against my writing, my drawing pen.
Okay.
Battle of Britain still rates as the greatest action. I agree. Well, a lot of people don't realize about Maverick CGI is they used a FMS 80mm F-14. Those were all RCs and stuff. And they put the CGI over the RCs to skin them, which is really, when you think about it, Top Gun Maverick is a marriage between physical models and CGI. Don't get me wrong, I think CGI is great for enhancing stuff, like they did in Maverick, because that CGI was bulletproof. There've been a lot of complaints about the CGI in this new Indiana Jones movie. That some scenes are just it's really bad. But
that Indiana Jones Goes to Assisted Living, that movie?
Getting close to it, and I think they should have quit after the third one. Well, guys, it's 8:57. I promised I'd be done at 9, so that pretty much wraps it up on my end. And you guys got anything else before we go?
Nope.
I like what Diane Smith just says. I say there's good CGI and bad CGI. Jackson did it right.
Yeah. I did like the King Kong. I mean, don't get me wrong. Things like the King Kong movie, Peter Jackson's King Kong, Jurassic Park, Maverick, you got to do CGI. The other stuff, it just looks much better than the other stuff. But I think what's happened is that unfortunately, these people, the creatives, since they can do anything with CGI, they do everything with CGI. And when you have a big budget tentpole movie that's got a multi-$100 million budget, yeah, it works. But for the average guy trying to crank out a $30-40 million film, that stuff is not cheap. They have entire rendering farms in Korea. You look at the army of people it takes. I'm like, and sometimes it's just cheaper to build a model. Heck, sometimes it's cheaper to build a full-size thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's
like that.
There was a movie made many years ago about NASCAR racing, and they CGI'd. Yeah, they CGI'd a lot of the accidents, all of the accidents that were in it, and they were trying to prove how realistic they were. So they showed the film to a bunch of NASCAR racers, and they said, "Okay, we want you to pick out the real ones and the fake ones." Well, all they did was give them fake ones, and they were saying, "Okay, that one's real. Now that one's got to be fake, or that one's." None of them got it right because they were all CGI.
Because they lied to them, Ken. They
Well,
use their they use an old psychological trick of expectation bias against them.
Perfect example of bad CGI, the Fast and the Furious movie.
That is exactly where I was going to go with that. I mean, people are falling asleep in those movies because they know it's just another fake CGI explosion. One of the reasons I like Tom Cruise movies is they know he actually gets out and does his own stunt work and stuff. Mission Impossible movies had some pretty impressive stunts on them. That was really him hanging on the side of that Airbus AM400.
And part of them watching that is hoping he falls off.
That is true. Same reason people go to a race. They want to see a crash.
Savage B24 says, Ken's P-38 crashing wasn't CGI. No, sadly it was not.
The downside of practical effects. All right, guys. Well, folks, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Ken and Steve, I'm glad you guys both made it. I'm going to loop the outro so you guys can chat with each other for a while. Ken, Steve, got anything you want to say before I hand it over to the soulless machine?
Have a Merry Christmas, troopers, and we'll see you towards the new year.
I hope everybody gets all the presents that they want, and have a Merry Christmas.
And guys, for myself and all of us here at Max's Models, which is myself, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Won't be a live stream next Saturday because obviously it's Christmas Eve. You guys enjoy time with your loved ones. Take care. As always, model on.